Breaking news to get to right now. The Supreme Court has just issued their ruling on the case of presidential immunity concerning former President Donald Trump.
And our political correspondent Paris Schutz is in studio to discuss more of what this means.
Yeah, Natalie and Brian, we just got this coming over the wire within the last couple of minutes. Breaking news, the Supreme Court has just issued an opinion on the Trump immunity case, and it's a 6-3 ruling. The conservative justices ruling in the majority, obviously, and they're ruling, and this was expected, they're ruling that Trump or a president does have immunity from prosecution for official acts taken as president. So anything in their duty as president of the United States, they do have immunity, but not for unofficial acts. So things that they do in their private life while they're president or after they're president, they do not have absolute immunity over that. And there was a lot of concern in the arguments here. Well, if a president had absolute immunity, couldn't they just order the assassination of a political rival? And those are questions that justices asked here. So by a 6-3 ruling, they kind of split this decision down the middle. It's very interesting.
Hey there, it's Jack, and today's a good one. Trump's lead attorneys in the classified documents case, Boris Epshteyn and Todd Blanche, filed emergency withdrawal motions in the middle of a hearing, abandoning him before Judge Sullivan. The timing and public nature of their exit signal a total collapse of his legal structure, driven by their refusal to work with a client who demanded unethical conduct. And now Trump is completely alone without legal representation. He's left scrambling to find new lawyers with only 60 hours until the January 6th deadline. That's 2.5 days. That's the deadline for turning over all the classified documents. That's when Trump is supposed to produce everything to the courts. And Trump's main lawyers just quit. Trump is now going into the most critical moment of the case without proper legal representation. But here's what really matters about this story.
Natalie and Brian, they waited until the absolute final day of their term to issue this ruling, and a lot of folks wanted them to expedite this because this impacts Trump's January 6th case. Very unlikely that that this case is going to go to trial before the election in November. There's only 5-6 months to go. So we're going to have a lot more on this. We're going to break this down in just a second. But first, we are going to toss it to network coverage with the very latest on this ruling.
This is a Fox News special report.
Good morning. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. Just moments ago, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of former President Trump in his presidential immunity case, meaning the former president will be given immunity for all official actions taken while he was commander-in-chief, likely bringing an end to the remaining criminal proceedings against him. The court holds that a former president has absolute immunity for his core constitutional powers, his official acts. It was a 6-3 vote. The justices said the former president's claim of absolute immunity from prosecution for election interference is valid.
This isn't just about the lawyers quitting. This is about why they quit. They quit because the evidence is overwhelming. They quit because Trump's position is unwinnable. They quit because Trump demanded that they fight cases that can't be won. They quit because Trump screamed at them and threatened them and said, "Fight or I'm going to jail you." They quit because Trump is unstable and unreasonable and impossible to work with. And when the best attorneys in the country decide that representing Trump is too much to handle, that tells you everything you need to know about Trump's situation. This lawyer exodus is not new. This is not the first time Trump's attorneys have quit.
It came in response to charges brought by special counsel Jack Smith alleging Mr. Trump conspired to overturn the results of the 2020 election ahead of President Biden's inauguration. Today's ruling means that case is essentially null and void. 2 other cases against the former president also remain in limbo, one in federal court related to his retention of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago home, and the other in state court, another election conspiracy case brought by prosecutors in Fulton County, Georgia. But it's still not clear what impact this will have on the 2024 election. The first debate was just last week and featured some testy exchanges over Mr. Trump's legal troubles. Connor Hansen is live outside the Supreme Court. Connor, what's the scene like there?
Well, Mike, as you can imagine, this was the most highly anticipated reading of this entire term. We've seen people lining up outside the Supreme Court since this morning. Protesters, people demonstrating outside. Nothing overboard, not massive crowds, but the what you'd expect, people carrying signs and a ton of media presence here.
Alina Habba resigned from her position as a New Jersey prosecutor because she couldn't handle representing Trump anymore. She took a government job specifically to get away from Trump, which tells you everything about how intolerable it became to represent him. Julianne Murray quit from Delaware because Senate pushback made her position untenable. The Senate Republicans basically made it politically impossible for her to continue, giving her the excuse she needed to escape. Skadden, one of the biggest law firms in the country, had their lawyer quit because they couldn't take the pressure anymore. Skadden is one of the biggest and most prestigious law firms in the world, representing major corporations and major clients. But Skadden's involvement with Trump became such a problem, such an ethical and reputational problem, that their lawyers started leaving. The Skadden lawyer said the pressure from Trump was too much.
Obviously, this is somewhat within the realm of what people were expecting the court to do. But, this is kind of a first here. This is setting a precedent for future and even former presidents who might be prosecuted, or someone might try to prosecute them. It gives these presidents absolute immunity if they're doing something within their official acts. But noteworthy here, if it is not designated as an official act, they will not get that immunity. So we'll continue digging through this opinion to see if there's any more details exactly what that'll mean. This, of course, comes after so many blockbuster rulings by the court just last week. Another January 6th related case, another 6-3, making it tougher for prosecutors to go after some of the people who were here on January 6th for those obstruction of a federal proceeding charges that could also affect former President Trump as well. And Mike, you mentioned this is going to have a huge impact potentially on this election coming up, where former President Trump has framed this as a repeated attack by the Biden administration against him, and where President Biden has more and more framed
that representing Trump was damaging to the firm's reputation, that Trump was making unethical demands, that Trump was unstable and unreasonable. And the Skadden lawyer decided to quit. Big law firms across the country are basically saying they don't want Trump as a client. Big law firms are rejecting Trump. Big law firms are saying Trump is too much trouble, Trump is too expensive, Trump is too ethically problematic, Trump is too associated with illegal conduct, and firms don't want to be associated with Trump. Big law firms especially don't want anything to do with Trump. Big law firms would rather lose the money than be associated with Trump. And that's devastating for Trump because Trump needs big law representation. Trump needs experienced attorneys from major law firms, but Trump can't get them anymore because big law firms don't want Trump as a client.
Former President Trump as a convicted felon who's constantly being charged with new crimes. So, like I said, we'll continue going through this opinion, a lot more to it. But again, absolute immunity for any acts, official acts as president. We'll send it back to you, Mike.
Connor Hansen live outside the Supreme Court. Connor, many thanks. It is worth noting the election interference case could still go back to the lower court because it's not entirely clear if that was part of his official actions. And so we are still going through the paperwork of the Supreme Court ruling out just moments ago. Of course, today's ruling comes after a jury in Manhattan convicted Mr. Trump on 34 felony counts in a hush money case. He will be sentenced later this month. Today's ruling does not affect the outcome of that case since it was centered on actions former President Trump took before his election in 2016. Again, the Supreme Court has ruled former President Trump does have immunity from prosecution in his federal election case, assuming that is part of his official duties. I'm Mike Emanuel in Washington. Stay tuned to this Fox station for all the latest on this and all the news of the day.
The financial situation is completely out of control. Trump is demanding that the Georgia prosecutors pay him $6.2 million in legal fees. $6.2 million. Trump thinks that Fani Willis's office should pay Trump's legal bills because Trump claims the Georgia case is frivolous. But Trump is also saying that Trump's cumulative legal bills across all cases are over $100 million. $100 million. Trump has spent over $100 million on legal defense since Trump was indicted. $100 million, and Trump is trying to push the cost of Trump's defense onto other people. Trump is trying to get the prosecutors to pay Trump's bills. But that's not how it works. Trump is responsible for Trump's own legal fees. The reason Trump's legal bills are so high is because Trump is fighting in multiple cases simultaneously. Trump is being prosecuted in the classified documents case. Trump is being prosecuted in the Georgia election case. Trump is being prosecuted in the New York hush money case. Trump is facing the January 6th case. Trump is dealing with multiple criminal prosecutions at the same time. Trump is fighting in multiple jurisdictions. Trump is dealing with hundreds of attorneys across multiple law firms. Trump is dealing with enormous discovery materials. Trump is dealing with extensive pretrial motions. Trump is dealing with depositions and testimony. Trump is dealing with expert witnesses. Trump is dealing with all of the complexity and expense of defending multiple major criminal cases. And that's why Trump's legal bills are so high. But here's the thing. Trump doesn't have enough money to pay these bills. Trump is claiming that Trump's personal net worth is in the billions. But Trump's liquid assets are probably much lower. Trump's assets are tied up in real estate and business ventures. Trump can't liquidate those assets quickly. Trump is probably running low on cash. Trump is probably struggling to pay these massive legal bills, and that's why Trump is demanding that prosecutors pay Trump's bills. Trump needs the money. Trump is desperate for the money. Trump is probably looking at financial collapse on top of legal collapse. The impact of the lawyer exodus is devastating for Trump's legal position. Trump is going into the most critical moment of the classified documents case without his lead attorneys. Trump is going to have to find new lawyers. Trump is going to have to get those lawyers up to speed. Trump is going to have to do all of that in 60 hours. And the new lawyers probably won't be as experienced or as skilled as Epstein and Blanche were. The new lawyers probably won't understand the case as well. The new lawyers probably won't be as prepared for Judge Sullivan. And Trump's legal position is going to suffer because of that. Trump's defense is going to be weaker. Trump's chances of winning are going to be lower. Losing your lead attorneys 60 hours before a major deadline is devastating. Let's break down exactly why Trump's attorneys are quitting and what it means that big law firms across the country are rejecting Trump as a client. This is a massive signal about Trump's legal situation. When the best attorneys in the country don't want to represent Trump, when experienced lawyers would rather abandon Trump than continue working for Trump, that tells you that Trump's cases are probably unwinnable, and Trump's conduct is probably so problematic that attorneys can't ethically represent Trump anymore. Let's start with what Epstein and Blanche said when they quit. They said the evidence is overwhelming. They said the classified documents evidence proves Trump's guilt beyond any reasonable doubt. They said Trump's position is unwinnable. They said that the audio from Bedminster shows Trump confessing. They said the photographs show conclusively that Trump mishandled classified material. They said the obstruction videos show Trump's team deliberately hiding evidence. They said Evan Corcoran's testimony will be devastating. They said the crime fraud exception ruling means prosecutors have access to everything Trump said to Corcoran about covering things up. They said the case is unwinnable, and they couldn't in good conscience continue trying to defend someone when the evidence proves guilt so clearly. But Epstein and Blanche also said that Trump demanded they keep fighting. Trump demanded that they file more motions. Trump demanded that they file appeals. Trump demanded that they challenge every ruling. Trump demanded that they do whatever it took to delay the trial. Trump demanded that they hide evidence if possible. Trump demanded things that attorneys can't ethically do. And when the attorneys explained that they couldn't do those things, Trump screamed at them. Trump threatened them. Trump said, "Fight or I'll jail you." Trump said, "You're fired." Trump had midnight meltdowns. Trump was impossible to work with. And the attorneys decided they couldn't represent someone like that. The attorneys decided that representing Trump was ethically impossible. This pattern has repeated itself multiple times. Alina Habba served as Trump's attorney for a while, but then she moved into government as a New Jersey prosecutor. Habba was probably looking for a way out of representing Trump, and the prosecutor job provided that opportunity. Habba could transition into government work and get away from Trump. And she did. Habba took the prosecutor job specifically to get away from Trump. That tells you something about how intolerable it became to represent Trump. Habba would rather take a government job with less prestige and less money than continue representing Trump. Julianne Murray also had to leave Trump's legal team. Murray served as one of Trump's attorneys, but then Senate Republicans started pushing back on her involvement. Senate Republicans basically said they don't want you representing Trump. Senate Republicans made it politically impossible for Murray to continue. So Murray had to quit. Murray had to abandon Trump. And Murray probably wasn't unhappy about that. Murray probably welcomed the opportunity to get away from Trump. The Senate pushback probably gave Murray the excuse she needed to leave. The Skadden lawyer quit on December 29, 2025. Skadden is one of the biggest and most prestigious law firms in the world. Skadden represents major corporations and major clients. But Skadden's involvement with Trump became such a problem, such an ethical and reputational problem, that Skadden's lawyers started leaving. The Skadden lawyer said that the pressure from Trump was too much. The Skadden lawyer said that representing Trump was damaging to the firm's reputation. The Skadden lawyer said that Trump was making unethical demands. The Skadden lawyer said that Trump was unstable and unreasonable. And the Skadden lawyer decided to quit. Skadden probably told the Skadden lawyer to get out of the Trump representation because Skadden didn't want to be associated with Trump anymore. And this pattern is playing out across big law. Big law firms are basically saying no to Trump. Now, big law firms are rejecting Trump as a client. Big law firms are saying that representing Trump is not worth the reputational damage. Big law firms are saying that Trump's cases are unwinnable and not worth spending resources on. Big law firms are saying that Trump's behavior is too problematic. Big law firms are saying that Trump demands unethical conduct from attorneys. Big law firms are walking away from Trump. And that's a massive problem for Trump because Trump needs quality legal representation. And Trump can't get it anymore. The financial situation is also critical to understanding why attorneys are leaving. Trump's legal bills are astronomical. Trump has spent over $100 million on legal defense. $100 million. That's an insane amount of money. That's a staggering amount. And Trump's legal bills are going to keep growing because Trump has more trials coming. Trump is going to have trial after trial after trial. Trump is going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars before this is all over. And Trump probably doesn't have that much money. Trump is probably going to run out of money. Trump is probably going to be unable to pay his legal bills. And law firms don't want to work for clients who can't pay. The $6.2 million demand that Trump is making against the Georgia prosecutors is also revealing. Trump is saying that Fani Willis's office should pay Trump's legal fees. Trump is saying that the Georgia case is frivolous and therefore the prosecutors should reimburse Trump. But that's not how the legal system works. The loser doesn't usually have to pay the winner's legal fees. Trump doesn't get to demand that Fani Willis pay Trump's bills just because Trump lost. Trump is responsible for Trump's own legal fees, and Trump is trying to push those costs onto other people because Trump is running out of money. Think about what this means. Trump is the president of the United States. Trump has access to government resources. Trump could potentially direct government lawyers to work on Trump's defense. Trump could potentially use government money to pay Trump's legal bills. But Trump is still personally broke. Trump's personal resources are exhausted. Trump has spent all Trump's available cash on legal defense. Trump is running out of money. And Trump is desperate to find new sources of funding for Trump's legal defense. Trump is trying to get prosecutors to pay Trump's bills. Trump is probably trying to get Republican donors to pay Trump's bills. Trump is probably considering other options to pay for legal representation. When attorneys understand that Trump is running out of money, when attorneys understand that Trump might not be able to pay their bills, when attorneys understand that they might work for months on Trump's case and not get paid, attorneys decide to leave. Attorneys need to get paid. Attorneys have their own families to support. Attorneys have their own bills to pay. Attorneys can't work for free. So when Trump's financial situation becomes precarious, when attorneys understand that they might not get paid, attorneys quit. Attorneys leave Trump and find other clients who can actually pay them. The cascading nature of all these problems is also significant. Trump loses a major motion in court. Trump's position becomes more desperate. Trump gets frustrated and angry. Trump screams at Trump's attorneys. Trump demands that Trump's attorneys do unethical things. Trump's attorneys realize that representing Trump is impossible. Trump's attorneys quit. Trump loses his experienced attorneys. Trump has to find new attorneys who are less experienced. Trump's legal position gets weaker. Trump loses more motions in court. Trump gets more frustrated. Trump screams at Trump's new attorneys. Trump's new attorneys quit. And the cycle repeats. Trump is caught in a downward spiral where Trump's legal position gets worse and worse as Trump loses more attorneys. The significance of the timing is also critical. Trump's attorneys quit on January 3rd at 11:30 at night. Trump has a major deadline on January 6th at noon. That's 60 hours away. That's not enough time to find new attorneys and get them up to speed on a complex case involving 833,000 pages of discovery. That's not enough time to prepare for a major court hearing. That's not enough time to organize evidence and prepare for document turnover. Trump is going into the most critical moment of the case with inexperienced attorneys, or potentially no attorneys. Trump is going to be unprepared. Trump is going to be disorganized. Trump's legal position is going to suffer. And Judge Sullivan is probably going to be furious about the chaos. Judge Sullivan is probably going to think that Trump is responsible for this chaos. Judge Sullivan is probably going to view the attorney walkout as evidence of Trump's instability and unreasonableness. Judge Sullivan is probably going to be even harder on Trump because of Trump's treatment of Trump's own lawyers. The document turnover deadline on January 6th is probably going to be a disaster. Trump is supposed to turn over 833,000 plus pages of documents. That's an enormous amount of material. That material needs to be organized. That material needs to be indexed. That material needs to be properly transmitted to prosecutors in the court. And Trump's attorneys were probably handling all of that. But now Trump's lead attorneys are gone. Trump is now without the infrastructure to handle the turnover properly. Trump is probably going to turn over the documents late or incompletely. Trump is probably going to turn over the documents disorganized. Trump is probably going to violate the court's order, and Judge Sullivan is probably going to sanction Trump or hold Trump in contempt. Trump's ability to defend the classified documents case is probably now essentially zero. Trump had experienced attorneys who understood the case and understood the law. Those attorneys are gone. Trump's replacement attorneys are probably going to be less experienced and less skilled. Trump's replacement attorneys probably won't understand the case as well. Trump's replacement attorneys probably won't be prepared for trial. And Trump's legal defense is going to be much weaker as a result. Trump's chances of winning at trial were already extremely low, but now Trump's chances of winning are basically zero. Trump's going to go to trial with a weaker legal team, and Trump is probably going to be convicted. The pattern of attorney departures means Trump's overall legal situation is collapsing. Trump is also facing trial in the January 6th case. Trump is also facing trial in the Georgia election case. Trump is also facing trial in the New York hush money case. Trump is facing multiple trials. Trump needs experienced attorneys for all of these cases. But experienced attorneys are quitting Trump. Experienced attorneys are rejecting Trump. Experienced attorneys don't want to represent Trump anymore. Trump is probably going to have to settle for less experienced attorneys across all of Trump's cases. Trump is probably going to have to settle for attorneys from smaller law firms. Trump is probably going to have to settle for attorneys who are desperate for clients. And Trump's legal defense is going to be weaker across all of Trump's cases. The financial crisis is also going to affect all of Trump's cases. Trump's legal bills are over $100 million across all the cases. Trump's legal bills are going to keep growing. Trump is running out of money. Trump is probably going to be unable to pay new attorneys. And when Trump can't pay attorneys, attorneys won't work for Trump. Trump is probably going to have to settle for court-appointed attorneys in some cases. Court-appointed attorneys are usually less experienced than private attorneys. Court-appointed attorneys are usually overwhelmed with cases. Court-appointed attorneys probably won't have the resources to mount an effective defense. And Trump's legal position is going to suffer because of inadequate legal representation. The ethical problems that attorneys face when representing Trump are also significant. Trump demands unethical conduct from attorneys. Trump demands that attorneys file frivolous motions. Trump demands that attorneys make arguments that are not supported by law. Trump demands that attorneys hide evidence. Trump demands that attorneys do things that violate the rules of professional conduct. When attorneys refuse to do those things, Trump gets angry and fires the attorneys. Attorneys can't ethically do what Trump demands. Attorneys can't represent Trump when Trump demands unethical conduct. So attorneys quit, and Trump is left without representation. The reputational damage of representing Trump is also significant. Law firms don't want to be associated with Trump. Law firms don't want their names in the headlines as Trump's attorneys. Law firms don't want to be seen as defending Trump. Law firms think that representing Trump damages their reputation. Law firms think that representing Trump is not worth the cost to the firm's brand. And so law firms reject Trump. The fact that Trump's attorneys are quitting en masse is going to damage Trump politically. Voters are going to see that Trump's legal team is collapsing. Voters are going to understand that Trump's attorneys think Trump's cases are unwinnable. Voters are going to understand that Trump's attorneys don't want to represent Trump anymore. Voters are going to conclude that Trump is in serious legal trouble. Voters are going to lose confidence in Trump. Voters are going to move away from Trump. And Trump's approval rating is probably going to drop even further. Independent voters especially are going to be affected. Independent voters care about rule of law. Independent voters are going to see that Trump's own attorneys think Trump's cases are unwinnable. Independent voters are going to see that Trump's own attorneys are quitting. Independent voters are going to understand that Trump is probably guilty. Independent voters are going to vote against Trump. Independent voters are going to vote against Republican candidates associated with Trump, and that's going to hurt Republican chances in the midterms. Republican donors are also probably going to be affected. Republican donors are going to see that Trump's legal position is collapsing. Republican donors are going to see that Trump is running out of money. Republican donors are going to see that Trump's attorneys are quitting. Republican donors are probably going to conclude that Trump is a lost cause. Republican donors are probably going to stop donating to Trump. Republican donors are probably going to redirect their money to Republicans distancing themselves from Trump. And that's going to hurt Republican fundraising. That's going to hurt Republican midterm prospects. The base of Trump's support is also probably going to be affected. Trump supporters are probably realizing that Trump is in serious trouble. Trump supporters are probably realizing that Trump's attorneys don't think Trump can win. Trump supporters are probably realizing that Trump is running out of money. Trump supporters are probably realizing that Trump is probably going to be convicted. Trump supporters are probably losing confidence in Trump. Trump supporters are probably less enthusiastic about Trump. Trump supporters are probably less likely to volunteer and campaign for Trump. And that's going to hurt Trump politically. If the House flips in 2026, if Democrats get control of the House, then impeachment is virtually certain. Democrats are going to use all of this evidence against Trump. Democrats are going to use the collapsed legal team as evidence of Trump's unfitness. Democrats are going to use Trump's treatment of his own attorneys as evidence of Trump's instability. Democrats are going to use Trump's mounting legal bills as evidence of Trump's desperation. Democrats are probably going to impeach Trump. Democrats are probably going to argue that Trump should be removed from office. And with Trump's approval rating historically low, with Republican support fragmenting, with Trump's political position weak, impeachment is probably going to succeed. The Senate probably has enough votes to convict and remove Trump. Trump is probably going to be impeached and probably convicted and probably removed from office. And that's the worst outcome for Trump. Trump is probably going to be removed from office before Trump's trial even starts. So here's where Trump is right now. Trump's lead attorneys quit. Trump's legal team is collapsing. Trump is running out of money. Trump is running out of attorneys. Trump has major deadlines looming. Trump is facing multiple trials. Trump is isolated and desperate. Trump's approval rating is historically low. Trump's political coalition is fragmenting. Trump's base is demoralized. Trump's donors are abandoning him. Trump is heading toward impeachment and conviction. Trump is heading toward removal from office. Trump is heading toward criminal conviction and prison time. Trump's presidency is collapsing as his own behavior, screaming at attorneys, demanding unethical conduct, and facing unwinnable cases, has driven away his legal team and allies. Now isolated and alone, he faces trial, impeachment, and possible prison, with no one left to defend him.